What have things been like for you just working with the receivers, obviously changing the position group that you're working with this year?
Yeah, it's been good. I think I had a pretty good idea what to expect as far as the mentality. But I feel like that, from the brand new guys, which we got three true guys that should be high school seniors still here. And then some of the older guys doing a great job leading those young guys about how we kind of approach things and go about things. So it's been good. I've enjoyed it to this point.
Who is really standing out to you there right now?
Well, I've been really happy with Keenan Garber. Has come to work every single day, has made plays for us, has even shown, even though he's a lighter guy, that he's not afraid to try to throw it in there and block some. So I've been really happy with him. Obviously, a Malik and a Brooks know so much about what our offense now after being here for 2 seasons, that they've been easy to coach and they've done a good job trying to help some of the younger guys. So in general, I've been happy with them.
As far as Malik goes, I know he's battled a lot of injuries throughout his career here at K-State. Are there things you can do in the offseason with his body, adding more muscle that can help make him a more durable player? And have you seen some of that?
Yeah, one of the things for me isn't so much myself changing things for him. It's him understanding that the off season is so important for his development for game week, meaning that if he'll listen to the strength and conditioning staff, if he'll listen to our nutrition people, if he'll do the things before we ever get to game day, he's going to be that much better. And to this point, I feel like he's been doing that. He hasn't missed a 1 rep so far in spring ball. And if he can keep working the way he's working, we'll be in good shape.
Appreciate it, Courtney. Thanks.
You bet.
Kellis?
Hey, Courtney, when you think back to last season, why is it, do you think, that the receivers just as a unit were not very productive? They didn't have big numbers.
Yeah, I don't know that I ever go back and look specifically at why was this guy or why was that guy not as productive as we hoped he would be. Some of that goes to just looking at how often were they able to practice, how often were they put in a position to make plays. More so than overall, why were they not as productive as a group? You try to look at individuals and see how do we get them where when opportunity comes, they make more plays. But the thing that I think some folks miss is that it's the entire offense. I'll go back and just as an example, I hate to talk about that game, but I go back and look at an Arkansas State, and we had a number of opportunities to make plays on a post. More than one. We had like 3 post opportunities that could have been game-changing plays. A couple of those, we actually had somebody in the quarterback's face, even though he was, one was a naked as an example where the quarterback half rolls and then's throwing the deep post, and a defensive end played down and then played back into Skylar's face. And he didn't maybe affect the hit on Skylar, but he probably affected the throw a little bit. And what I'm getting at is it's more than just the one individual receiver. It's the O-line, it's the quarterback, it's the wideouts getting open. All of us as a group putting ourselves in a position to make a play, and that makes us look way more productive.
Understood. For you personally, is there a unit on the offense you enjoy coaching more than any other? Were you happy to coach receivers more than, say, tight ends or something?
I'm kind of a unique situation for me over the years because I've coached at basically every level of college football. Some places where you've got obviously a full set of 10 assistants, and other places where maybe you only have, 5 or 6 full-time guys. I've coached, with the exception of the offensive line, I've coached all the skill positions on offense. And a lot of places I've been, actually, I had to coach the wideouts and the tight ends at the same time, or the quarterbacks and the tight ends at the same time. And so which one's my favorite, or do I like the most? Honestly, I've always felt like coaching a position other than quarterback allowed me to see what was going on more. As an example, when I was with the tight ends, you had more opportunity to see what was truly going on with the O-line. When you're coaching the wide receivers, you have more of an opportunity to see what's really happening with the quarterback and the receivers, because they got to work so closely together to have success. So from my standpoint, I've liked all 4 positions when I've coached it. The wideout positions where I actually started at. My very first job in the coaching profession was the wide receivers. And I've coached them at Iowa State. I coached them at Southern Miss. I've obviously now kind of coached them here, coached them at Missouri State. So I feel comfortable with the wideout position, and I feel like we've got guys that are going to make plays for us when next fall rolls around.
Also wanted to run two players by you, see what you thought about their progress. Daniel Imator Bebe, I hope I'm nailing that right. What's he giving you at tight end so far?
For only weighing, I think he only weighs 240, 245, something like that. He plays a lot bigger than that. He's long. He's got long arms. He's got long legs. When he comes off the ball, his ability to block people is probably better than what I anticipated. But because of that length, because of those long arms, his catch radius, he's done a really nice job of being a big passing threat for us in the tight end position. So very happy with him, happy with his knowledge. But but part of the thing that I think people don't realize is when you've been in college football as long as he has and been in as many systems as he has been, he really understands the game well. Now it's just getting the terminology and the verbiage down that we use.
And how has Joe Urban slid back into the offense? Does it look like he took a year off, or is he
I would tell you the first winter conditioning part, it looked like he'd taken a year off, and probably the first 2 or 3 practices before we got pads on, probably the first 2 practices before we got pads on, you felt like, oh, I don't know where he's at. But once we got pads on and now it's running, handing the ball where people have to tackle him, he's done a phenomenal job of doing what we saw him do as a true freshman. Some of the games where he got in where you handed it to him and you felt like he had great pad level and was playing fast through the holes. So we've been really, really happy with how he's progressed this spring.
All right. Thanks, Courtney. Good to see you again.
Good seeing you.
Let's go back to John.
Yeah, Courtney, I know Skylar obviously isn't able to be a full go here, but just what is he able to do right now, and how much of a lift has it been to have him back?
Yeah, pretty much anything that's passing game where he doesn't have the opportunity to get hit. So as an example, we do some 7-on-7 type of stuff, but we actually have the D line going. If the D line are going, he's not in there. If we're doing that drill and he's going to take the rep, Coach Kleiman will say, "Hey, D line, you guys are dead this rep." Just because we want him to have the ability to interact and play and do the passing game aspect. But obviously we're smart and we got to follow what our athletic trainers talk to us about. And he's not at all supposed to be in a contact position yet. But his ability to throw the football, I've been very, very impressed with how he's rehabbed and how they've done a nice job getting him ready to throw the ball down the field. I was more concerned probably that would he feel comfortable if he was on the right hash throwing a seam ball or even throwing a ball clear out to the left sideline. And he's been able to do it without thinking about it. And I'm impressed with where he's at with his rehab.
As far as that backup quarterback job goes right now, who has stood out to you behind Skylar at this point?
It's amazing because it was only a month or so of lifting and conditioning, but the growth of Will Howard, not just from a mentally, because you would expect him to be farther ahead mentally because of the number of reps he had to take last year in the season. But I'm talking his physical development, his confidence with his strength, he ran the ball and had 2 of the longest runs we had last year. But I think everyone would say when you watch those runs, boy, he's running out of gas. He's starting to get where, they're going to track him down. And I'm not telling you that he won't get tracked down now. But I'm going to tell you, he'll run much more confident than he did a year ago. On a 3rd down call in our practices so far, he's been very, very confident. And when he pulls the ball out, that he's strong. He's able to play with that much more confidence. And I really believe that's from the 4 weeks of winter conditioning where he eliminated some body fat, put on a bunch of body muscle. And gain muscle weight, basically. So I'm very happy with how he's played.
What have you seen so far from Jake Rubley and how he's been able to pick things up?
Live arm, really live arm. And that's what we anticipated he would have. Very cerebral as far as taking the time to draw every play out, going through every script. But as every, quote, high school senior to be freshman is, the game goes fast. Our defense does a good job disguising things. Our defense does a good job of showing one picture and then actually playing something else. And So from that standpoint, Jake's got to keep coming along from a mental standpoint when the bullets are flying. But from a mental standpoint, before the play starts, he's very sharp.
Thanks, Courtney. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Grant.
Hey, Coach. I was going to ask you, what about Jacardi, right? How has he done in spring practice? So far?
Been happy to this point, and I know it sounds like, boy, you're happy about everybody, but he's a little bit bigger than what he had been. He's 230 pounds. Is showing up on special teams. You say, well, I'm talking about the running back position. Yeah, there's no doubt. But the more confidence you can get, the more things you can start having success at, the more you're going to have success at that quote main position. And he's showing up that he wants to get better, wants to be a guy that people can count on. And you're seeing it just in even our special teams work that we do. And when you start seeing some of that, you start feeling more and more comfortable that hand him the ball and you're going to believe in him. And I think the biggest part is him believing in himself, because at 230 pounds, he still runs well. I want to see us have success, but I want to see him have success. So I've been happy to this point.
And then what do you think about the depth at offensive line right now that you have?
Oh, night and day from where it was when we started two-a-days or fall camp last year. And the biggest reason is because those young men got forced into playing. And some of them, yes, they'd had some reps maybe, but very few had a lot of reps. And the example I'll use is a Cooper Beebe right now is so much more comfortable talking, communicating, executing his job, and then coming back to a huddle and being able to talk to Coach Riley and say, no, they were playing this, they were playing that, the linebacker played there. And Cooper's just one example, but there's a whole bunch of young men that got forced to play that had not played much football. And a lot of people forget we didn't have any spring practice a year ago. So the growth and mental side of it that we're seeing out of those guys has really been good. Now they've got to get back to where they're also being the most dominant physically that they can be, because we still want to be a knock you off the ball offense. And for that to happen, our offensive line has to play well, not just as individuals, but as a whole, understanding gap schemes and understanding zone and how do we get push and knock off.
Last thing I'm curious about, you talked about Will Howard, Jake Rubley, and Skyler. What about Jaron Lewis? What has he done so far?
Jaron's been getting a lot of reps, with the one group. I've been happy with his arm talent, been happy with his starting to understand our offense that much better. He ends up getting lost a little bit, which he shouldn't, but he gets lost a little bit because of, Will getting so many reps last year and kind of putting himself in front of Jaron. Not at all disappointed in Jaron, happy with his progression, and he needs to keep coming along, though. He needs to not just be the leader in the huddle because he's always been that, where he steps into the huddle. He's a confident young man in the huddle, but he's also now got to take it to the field and make the plays that he can make. And what I'm getting at is I don't need to see him make that spectacular throw on a post or a spectacular throw on a deep out route. I need to see him make a common throw, a quick out or a hitch where he throws it in there and gives guys opportunity to go make plays after they catch it.
Thank you, Coach.
You bet.
Let's go back to Kellis.
After missing spring ball last year, do you use this experience to, I don't know, how do you use it? Do you put in any new stuff? Do you go back to fundamentals? How are you approaching everything?
We've tried to actually go through and truly install the offense basically a third time. We had a spring and then a fall, and then you'd say, well, we had another fall. Well, we didn't have spring ball, and our fall was so somewhat dysfunctional because of offensive linemen or receivers or quarterback missing a 10 days with a COVID situation or a close contact situation. So we're really trying to do two things. That's put the offense in, and we're pretty much there now through the number of practices that we've had, but then also really hammer on the fundamentals. If it's the O-line working footwork, if it's the tight ends, understanding what their aiming points should be. If it's the wide receivers, just the top of the route. How do you run the top of the route the way we want it run? So we're trying to do two things: teach the scheme, but also hammer on the fundamentals and the details.
All right, thanks, Courtney.
You bet.
Fitz. Oops. There we go.
Hey, Coach.
Hey.
I'm going to ask you the question. Any young guys that have kind of stepped up and really caught your attention?
No. Well, two wide receivers have done a really nice job to this point. Ty Bowman and Jalen Travis, that are, I would consider those, even though they've been in our program now, they're still young guys to me. Been really happy with them. Every single day, Deuce does things where you say, wow. But that's kind of expected. Offensive line wise and tight end wise, I would say tight end, a young man named Ben Sennett has really stuck out to this point. We've been happy with him. And then from an offensive line standpoint, Carver Willis, who, we forced him into playing some last year. We feel really comfortable with what he's doing. He's a long, athletic young man that's not quite to 300 pounds yet, but he's not 265, 270. He's probably 285. Really happy with him. So every position's got somebody that we feel like, okay, they're showing the signs of things that we knew they could do when we recruited them. But I'd say the guys I mentioned probably have stuck out the most to this point.
That receiver spot, now that you're in charge of it, you get back some really nice pieces. But you really need more depth, more competition. They need to kind of fear that they might lose some time, don't they?
Oh, 100%. The more we can keep going where we've got 5, 6, 7 guys that legitimately can get on the field and produce for us, the more that each individual knows every day I got to get better. Every day I need to improve, even if it's only a little bit, but I need to improve. And, the competition to me is vital for us getting where we want to go. And that's because the more we can not just teach each other, but also push each other, the better it will be. And when I say it that way is, I don't care if Phillips the starter or if Malik's the starter or Sebastian's the starter. They can't be afraid of the competition, but they also can't be afraid to try to help the guy that's below them be ready to play and to be ready to truly compete, to take their job. And if they're ready to take their job because they're better than they are, hopefully that forces those guys to push themselves and to keep improving and just be better competitors.
The same topic now with the offensive line. I'd imagine Noah's pretty safe, but nobody really seems to be safe in that line. You've got so many players that some guys that started might be losing their jobs.
Yeah, I would tell you that just as an example, Taylor Poitier getting opportunity to play the last couple of games of the year and how well he played instantly put competition on the board for us from an O-line standpoint. And now when you start looking at KT and you start looking and saying, well, Carver Willis is doing a nice job and Cooper Beebe's doing a nice job and you got Josh Rivas and you're starting to roll through and all of a sudden you go, boy, I'll be honest with you. One of the guys I trust as much as anyone is Duffy. And it's because he comes to work every single day. And again, he was one of those guys in the 4-week time frame that we had that was quote winter conditioning, changed his body makeup unbelievably. And Scott Troush does a great job using what they call a Dexa Scan, where they're basically finding out exactly their body makeup. And 4 weeks later, took another scan and found out how much muscle they gained, how much fat they lost, where they put the muscle on, where they lost the fat. And Duffy did a phenomenal job and is having a really, really good spring. So the competition there has been really good for us.
And have you messed with any guys maybe seeing time at other spots right now, trying to see if they might find more playing time at a different position?
From the offensive standpoint, not so much. I mean, we've obviously we're always trying to find out if our tailbacks, because we feel pretty good about the number of tailbacks we have, how much we can put them in the as an example, we would call it a two tailbacks on the field at the same time, yet line up in a 3 wide receiver set. And the more we can try to do that, the easy example is against Oklahoma. All of a sudden putting Mosey out there as a wideout, the widest wideout, and having him run a go route and make a huge play for us. Can we put him in other positions where he can go catch a ball on maybe a bubble screen and not get tackled with the first guy that tries tackling and get us a 30-yard play? And obviously we did that some with Deuce, but there are some other running backs that we can put at receiver, and not to take away from receiver reps, but to make people defend different personnel sets.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate it.
You bet.
Last one here, Kellis.
All right, one last one for you. Given that you guys seem to have more quarterback depth than you have had recently, especially with what you said about Will, does that make you think about creating ways to get multiple guys out there next season?
Definitely makes me think that we need to figure out if we can have a quote Wildcat package, even though it maybe wouldn't be a guy that you would say can't throw the ball. Example, Will obviously did a nice job running the football last year for us. He's a bigger bodied dude that throws it well enough, but yet I really don't want Skylar getting hit that many times. Obviously Skylar understands on third down and understands in the red zone that it's all on the table. Then he's going to get hit because we need him to score touchdowns for us, and we need him to run through linebackers and defensive ends and that type of stuff. But if we're out in the regular field and it's a 3rd and 2 and we all of a sudden want to have that extra ball carrier being a quarterback, I think I'll feel comfortable putting Will in or whoever that next guy might be so that Skylar doesn't have to take some of those hits.